Hello and welcome to the Peaceful Empowerment Work Show. As you can see, Janice is back in the house.
Yay!
We are coming to you live on the newstreamingnetwork.com, home of goingboldmedia.com, goingsolomedia.com, and WGSN-DB. Going Solo, there we go, Going Solo Network Radio. I am your co-host, Judy Porter, and I am here with Janice Leonard back in the house.
Yeah.
We are so happy to have you back, girl. You have been
I missed it. Thank you. I missed it, so I'm glad to be back.
Yes, you have definitely been missed because what? This is where presence allows perspective and invites peace.
Amen. Yeah.
Amen. And today's topic, being a caregiver when it's hard to care. Yeah, being a caregiver when it's hard to care. But before we go there, we're going to have Janice ring us in. Thank you very much for that. We're going to switch things up a little bit. And, since my daughter told me that memes were old and played out, Janice and I have shuffled some things around. And we're going to start off with some good news. Hey, Janice, how about you tell me something good?
I'm getting into these reels now. I'm feeling, even though I'm not young, I'm acting young. I'm looking on YouTube and everything. But I also found out we have to be careful with all our copywriting in that. So we're not going until I understand all the copywriting issues, so I won't break any. We're going to try to stay away from the videos. But this week's it's a good one, and it was from one of the social media posts, and it was a social media post called Upworthy, and Alexia Bjornsson, if I pronounce it right, posted this. And you got to just look at that picture, and I'm going to tell you what it says. And again, it's a picture of a man and a boy with the boy's head is on the man's shoulder. And it could be in an airplane. And this is what she wrote. Today, my son Landon took his first flight to Oregon to see his dad. I sent Landon with a letter to give whoever sat next to him, saying he has high-functioning autism, so he might be nervous and ask you, are we there yet? A lot. Please just make him feel comfortable and safe. She included $10 in the note, and she got a note back. She is so grateful to that individual, and that there's still kind people in the world who make a difference, like I try myself to do. And the man's name was Ben. Ben wrote back to her, Alexa, my name is Ben. I was Landon's seat neighbor for his flight to Portland. He did ask if we were there yet, several times. But he was a great travel buddy. He had a good time and played a few rounds of rock, paper, scissors. He's a great kid, and you're a lucky mom. I appreciate the $10, but it wasn't necessary. I donated it to autism.society.org in honor of Landon. I just can't imagine if you're your mother having to send your son cross-country autism and the anxiety she must have had and risk, and to be able to actually have it turn out the way it did. It's very heartwarming.
Yeah, very much so. And, I read this when you sent it to me, and Jen also saw this and shared it with me. And for the third time, it brought tears to my eyes.
Yeah.
And it's so heart-centered. And there are so many good people out there. There's so much good stuff going on. And one of my favorite parts of this show is what you bring for joyful story time with Janice.
Yeah.
It really is.
So, especially at a time when things can all be about what you're against and what's bad in the world and what shouldn't be and shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
There is, right now, so much good.
Yes. Yes. And what was the hashtag? Be like Ben?
Be like Ben.
Be like Ben. Be like
yes. Ben. That's right. It was.
Yes. That's fantastic. All right. We're going to roll right into our next segment. Attitude is everything.
And do you want, you have it written up, right?
Give us our sound.
Oh, geez,
Remember,
Louise.
you have given
Yes.
Attitude is everything.
And I practiced it ahead of time. Okay, one more time.
Ready? We're going to go into Attitude is everything. There we go.
Thank you, everybody, for your patience on that one. Okay, I missed 2 weeks in a row, and look what happens.
It's okay. We're getting you back into groove. And Janice reached out to me and she was like, you know what I think would be a really good idea is a weekly affirmation. So last week we did Attitude is everything. And I think the weekly affirmation fits perfectly into that. And Janice, take it from here.
I actually got this one from Oprah. I got a thing of Oprah's motivational sayings or something. And so for this weekly affirmation, I chose this one, which I thought was good, well tied to our topic. I'm going to say it as an affirmation, though. I cannot give what I don't have. If I build it for myself, then I can give to others. Trevor Noah said that one.
Yeah. And, for those of you that are seeing it, it says you. And Janice and I were having this conversation about affirmations. And, it is written as you cannot give what you do not have, but you can turn anything into an affirmation by taking that you and making it I, just like Janice did.
Mm.
So if you have something that you read that hits you and like you feel something in your heart, just make it directly for you.
Yes. And thanks for that tip, because I read things and I'm inspired a lot, but I think if I did change it and make it an I statement, it would be more impactful. I know just now it was. So thanks for that tip.
Yeah.
Good one.
Yeah. It's it's not something that early on I thought about, and, affirmations, I'm like, yeah, affirmations, they're whatever. You're trying to trick yourself, but I discovered that there are vibrations in words, and which vibration feels better. The internal dialogue that beats me up constantly, or affirming something like this, and
when you're trying to change the way you're thinking into healthier, more peaceful thoughts too, it helps bring that peace for me.
Yeah, it definitely helps remind and ignites. I like to picture my nervous system, my nerves like sparking when things like this happen, and it makes my heart feel good. I feel like, ooh, there's like a buzzing where I'm making new connections. They were once there and now they're gone, but they're reconnecting. So
nice.
Really pay attention to how you feel with the words you're hearing and the words you're using, because it does make an impact. And perfect. This is an absolutely perfect affirmation for today.
Thank you.
Excellent. I wanted to dive a little bit more into catch and release. And I shared a reel earlier this week on my Facebook page about how songs, crazy, silly, stupid songs just pop up in my head, and that's my life. Somebody will ask me a question and immediately I'll hear a response in a song. And while it makes me laugh, it could be seen as annoying to others. So I was driving in the car thinking about catch and release. Catch and release was a huge tool that I used early on. And all of a sudden this little ditty about catch and release, a tool to help me find my peace. Yes. So, again, another song that ages me, but that's okay. Catch and release is a tool that is something that needs to be used consistently in order for it to help shift your pattern of thinking and replace old, outdated beliefs. So it's used to shift your internal dialogue. it rewires the brain to create new positive thought patterns. It decreases self-deprecating comments, and it stops for me, it stopped the endless beatings of not being enough. So, I was working with a client and she was taking notes and she was like, okay, so these are my action steps. So I was like, okay, action steps for using the tool of catch and release. And it's about being aware. Awareness is the first key to all of this, because if you're not aware of the dialogue, you can't shift it. So as soon as you realize that you've fallen into an old thinking pattern, you're beating yourself up. Why couldn't I do that? I'm stupid. Why am I such a dumbass? And these are just things that would go in my head. If it's if it's not something that's kind, supportive, or true, pause. Just pause. There's so much power in the pause. Pause and take a deep breath. Catch that thought before it gains any more momentum, because for me, one thought will trigger me down into that spiral. I make a silly mistake, instead of just being like, oh, that was a mistake, and brush it off and do better. It's, why are you so fucking dumb? How could you make that mistake? You're an idiot. What are you doing? So to prevent yourselves from going into that spiral, that pause helps break that emotional loop. And when you break that emotional loop, you catch it. I would actually picture myself catching those words, and then I would look at my hand and declare, no, we're not doing that anymore. We're not going to think those thoughts. And why? Why? Because they're not true. I don't believe them to be true any longer. And, there were times where I did still believe they were true. And what I found out is I can't bullshit myself. So what I would say is, I'm working to heal this thought pattern, and this doesn't serve me. This doesn't help me in any way. And then release it. Let it go to the ethers.
I like that. I'm working to, hang on, I want to write that down. I'm working to, okay, I like that. I'm going to say that.
Excellent. And then this is where the affirmations come. You replace it with a new positive belief, affirmation, song, anything that raises your vibration. For me, laughter is a big thing, in case you couldn't tell. Jen was listening to the show and I was sitting on the couch working, and I was like, God damn, I laugh a lot. Some of it I will attest to is nerves sometimes, but I learned early on that life really isn't that serious. There are parts of life that are, but when you can step back and look at things and find the humor, find the lesson and all that, it makes that reality look very different. And catch and release is a tool that is used to shift your reality, because my reality was, I loathed myself. I hated who I was. I hated everything about myself. And using this technique allowed me to pull out of those thought patterns that I had no idea were running on a constant loop in my subconscious. So this was a crucial tool that I used in my healing. And it was, it's funny because when I start working on things, the universe just puts things in front of me to validate what I'm thinking. And I saw a reel of a woman, I wish I could remember her name, but she was saying how she had a conversation with her daughter about bricks and feathers. And it made me think of catch and release, because the negative, lower vibrational thought that I was catching, I saw that as the brick. And I could choose to hold on to it, love it, nurture it, which I did most of my life, and believe it. Or I can look at it and say, I no longer care to see you as a brick. I choose to make you a feather. And the feather blows away. So that's the release part. So take those bricks, turn them into feathers, and let them go. Replace them with something that feeds your soul, feeds your heart, makes you feel good. And again, if you don't believe it, it's going to be hard to convince your body to accept it. Focus on the vibration of it. When I was able to learn that don't feed bullshit to me because I'm not going to buy it. It's not going to work. And just settle with, not settle, but come to the understanding that as long as I declared I was healing, I'm working to shift this thought. I'm working to shift this belief. I don't want to believe that anymore. I'm going to believe this. As long as I work through that process, then everything began to unfold. And it takes consistency. You know, it's funny because Deanna used the word discipline last week, and I was like, oh, but it's true. It takes consistency. It takes discipline. You have repetition after repetition after repetition. When I started doing this, I was in my mid 40s. I had 40 something years of believing and hearing every single day. I had no idea the dialogue, the damaging dialogue that went through my head from the moment my eyes opened until the moment I went to sleep. So that brought awareness to that. So as you can see, I'm very passionate about the tool of catch and release.
Yes.
You have
You know, even just like I want to say, I always say, you do something, step on a Lego, I don't know what, but I would say, oh, stupid. You just, even that, and how many times do you just say stupid, stupid, stupid? But
yes.
you know, when you say stupid, what does your body feel like when you think, oh, I'm stupid? So I know one thing I did do years ago is I tried to work so hard, instead of saying stupid, to say silly. Mm-hmm. And then just that different word and that energy of a different word, that silly, ends up being kind of like a fun, light thing.
Yes.
So, you know, so that helped a lot.
Excellent. Yes, that's exactly what we're talking about, is taking those words and replacing them with something that feels better. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. We're going to move into Pathways of Peace now. Yeah, Janice just whacked a tuning fork, and it's difficult to hear, but when she was playing with it in our pregame, I couldn't hear it, but I could definitely feel it. My body felt the vibration of the instrument, so that was fantastic.
Yeah, that one is for the crown chakra, for guidance and spirituality.
I love it.
And just so you know, this other one that I do, this is the tunes for the chakras, and there's one for each one. So when I go, that's what you're getting. All the chakras sounds to help align that.
You cover it all in here.
Yes.
All right. We're going into the topic for today, being a caregiver when it's hard to care.
Oh, yeah.
We got a comment from Jennifer.
Oh, yeah. That's
like you would a dear friend or a small child. Yeah. That definitely
that's such a great trick, because I know one of the things I worked on for a while was, how would you talk if you were talking to a child? Like you would talk to your daughter or to a young child or so, you know, and it's, what a difference. Thank you, Jen. That was a big difference.
Yeah, that was a big one. Would you say that to Maddie? I mean, Jen would say that to me. Would you say that to Maddie? No, ma'am, I wouldn't. Then why are you saying it to yourself?
Ooh.
Yes. Jen also likes to pull the don't talk bad to you in my voice. Don't you say bad things about you in my voice.
Oh, that's a good one.
Anyway.
It's nice when you have that kind of support to remind you.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so I thought we would start with the definition of a caregiver. What society is telling us a caregiver is. It's a family member or paid helper who regularly looks after a child or a sick, elderly, or disabled person. The role of the caregiver is to provide emotional support and companionship, as well as feeding, grooming, managing money, shopping, and providing transportation. The interesting thing is I was like, you know, I feel like caregiver has been put in this little box where if the person isn't sick or you're not a nanny or a daycare provider, then are you a caregiver? And that's something Janice and I were talking about in the pregame. You know, Janice, how many experiences in your life have you been a caregiver that wouldn't necessarily fit this definition?
a lot. I don't know. Well, at the child, when I was looking at that, the only thing that I found true for me was, looking after a child, caregiver of a child.
Mhm.
That's been a lot of what I've done. So,
Yeah.
but other than that, I've been paid. I've actually worked in a hospice program
Okay.
and put care of an elderly person. But that's not, except for the child part, that's not who I am, and that's not part of my essential core self.
Yeah. And
Where
that's
being caregiver is in general, but just not as it's stuff defined there.
right. And that was my whole point is, society says this is what a caregiver is, but all of us are caregivers in one way or another. And, some people are caregivers for their pets. Some people are caregivers, and I was telling Janice, what I realized is the most important caregiver that you care for is caring for yourself. And
Yes.
part of the difficulty, it's hard being a caregiver when it's hard to care. We talked about with catch and release, that consistency and showing up for yourself and everything. And I said to Janice, but what about those times when it's really hard, when you're just, everything is heavy, the weight of the world is weighing on you, and it's just too hard to care about your damn self. So you do whatever you can to survive, which we know from our masterful you, that drops us into zone 1 and survival mode.
Yeah.
So some of the main struggles of a caregiver, they suffer from isolation, added stress, financial burdens, because a lot of family members will quit jobs or work part-time so that they can be that caregiver. And financially, it becomes an issue. FOMO was something that made me laugh. Fear of missing out.
I like that.
We put FOMO on here, but yes, the fear of missing out, because if your heart isn't in the caregiving that you're doing, then you're constantly worried about missing out on something else in life.
Yeah. And then you get into it, you can get, and I have gotten into this negative cycle of, look what I'm missing out on, look what I don't have, and this caretaking can become a burden and real negative thing in your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I found these quotes interesting as well. Inspiring quotes on the selflessness of caregiving. A caregiver's greatest strength lies in the ability to put the needs of others before their own. We'll talk about that in a minute. And caregiving is not about what you do, but about who you are and the love you bring to others. That one, I'm totally on board with. That first one about putting everybody else before you, I have an issue with. This is a good place for us to take a commercial break, and then we'll be back. And we're back. Be Here Now, Peaceful Empowerment Work Show. We're talking about being a caregiver when it's hard to care. And before we broke for commercial, we were talking about this quote that says a caregiver's greatest strength lies in their ability to put the needs of others before their own. And I struggle with that. Because the work that we do is us realizing that if we don't fill our own cup, just like in your affirmation, then we don't have anything to give to the people that we love and we're caring for. So, a few questions came to mind. If you find yourself in a situation where you either are, or there is the potential for you to be a caregiver when it's hard, what makes it hard? In my mind, I was like, okay, we're going to do this show. What makes it hard to be a caregiver? Because I was lucky enough to be a caregiver for my mother when she was sick, and there was no other way I would have it. It was not. It was hard in the fact that emotionally it was difficult to see her suffering the way she was and all of those things. But the actual act of caring for her, it was an honor. So when I thought about this, I was like, when would it be hard? Well, it would be difficult if you're caring for somebody who
I'll tell you.
you know, and that's what I thought of. If it's an in-law or a family member that quite frankly has been a real bastard to you for years and years and years, and then all of a sudden they're sick and nobody else will do it and everybody's looking at you, what do you do next? You know, that's what I thought of. Janice, what is your take on this?
Oh, I thought when I saw the topic, I thought a different way. Oh, that one is so true. I respect that. And it just reminds me that the topic is much broader than just being a caretaker and it being hard. I know for myself, one of the hardest caretaking experiences is, let's see, Adriana was three years old when she was taken. My stepson and his wife went down that rabbit hole of drug addiction. And the kids ended up being taken away. There were 3 of them, and I was able to take one. And that's when I say my granddaughter, that's who I'm talking about it. And certainly when I say it's hard because when you're in the middle of that situation, when you're looking at, well, I was in denial. I didn't see the drug addiction in my face. So I was in denial. And dealing with the situation was just so hard. And I don't mean it was hard because, my feelings about them. It's hard because, I love my stepson and I was a big part of raising him since he was 3 years old. And to watch him go through this addiction and his wife, that was hard. You add on top of it those 3 children that they had and what was happening to them. And then they got put in foster care. And I could only take one. I could not handle more than one. And just, it's so hard. So here I am. I took in my step-granddaughter, my granddaughter, or my daughter, who I don't never know how to say it. This is after I raised my kids. And I'm blessed that, honestly, I'm blessed that I got to. And I will always wish that I had, that's negative. Anyways, but that I could have taken all 3 of them. But besides that, I had to take care of her in a time when, if you've never been through, well, maybe some of you have, that's not true. But when you have a child in foster care and you're watching them, you're going to give them love, but they're not yours. What you're doing is you're holding them in love as the parents try to get custody back. So you're dealing with the visitations that maybe don't happen or do happen or happen in a way that are hurtful. And you're dealing with the child's emotions as they go through that and as they return. And if you are emotionally vested, like I was, and I can't imagine taking in a foster child and not being emotionally invested, that is so hard. So that's my definition of being a caretaker when it's hard, caregiver, is that situation. Well, it's still hard, but especially at that time when you have to take in and hold and love a child and watch what happens.
Yeah.
And that's that process.
Yeah. We talk about trauma a lot, that, the children have been traumatized, and to hold that space and nurture, do whatever you can to help support them. It's difficult. It's difficult to sit when you have limited reach, where all you want to do is protect them, yet they still have exposed.
I love my stepson, and I can't believe, I want to just support him and help him make healthier decisions, but yet you can't, because you have to be there for the child. Yeah. Well, that's how I felt anyways. Or you're limited how much you can do. Right. That's probably a better way, but the child's at one of the neediest points in their life, the child, and the adult person is in one of the most difficult times in their life. And you just, how can you keep yourself in that? Right. Because how can you, and then heaven forbid you're working full time. And that balance of being, I didn't have it. There's no way I could find any balance at that point in my life. And so that's what I think of when it's hard to care.
The struggle The struggle is real. And, when we were talking in the pregame, a lot of the hard wasn't about taking in your granddaughter. The hard was, how do you take care of you so that you can take care of her? And back when you did that, it's like that wasn't even in the realm of thinking, that I have to take care of me first so that I can, that's something that has come later. Now, with that realization, would you say the situation has gotten any easier in how you approach it?
Well, first of all, that was total chaos time. And since then we've adopted her. She's ours. And so the chaos, the temporary chaos, let's just call it that, that definitely got easier, because then, you don't have all the struggles with being a foster parent or adoption, and then my stepson, after step back, he wouldn't have anything to do with us after that, which, was fine, unfortunately, because it was hard enough. And I had to heal, and then you go through that is you can't take care of somebody. I couldn't take care of her when I couldn't, I just didn't even know who I was, where I was. And then you add on that, probably about the second year after we adopted her, I had a car accident, got a head injury, found out I have a rare eye disease and I'm going to go blind. And, it was just all of that. Again, it just kept you in the chaos.
Hauling it on.
Yeah, and when you're in that chaos, there's not even thinking about what's best. So I'm going through this, something, I'm not taking care of her like I should. And then comes the beating up. Right. I know she needs me. She needs me to be there. I can't even have yelling near me right now. The head injury part. She can't, I can't have that. Oh no. I couldn't. So that's when it's hard to care, when you absolutely can't. I did the best I could. And thankfully, we'll call that another temporary chaos. I'd like to call it that. But, now, especially when I left my full-time career job, that's when I was able to just step back and first I'm like, who the hell am I? I have no idea. And I was my job. I could always be that, right? But then I wasn't that anymore. And, but I was able to step back and look at myself. And that's when I was able to take the pause, we'll say.
Right.
And Adriana is a wonderful child. She still takes a lot of work. She still has trauma history. She has trauma issues, and in school and home and self-harming behavior and everything. So it's still always caretaking, always being the caregiver. But I had the ability, the luxury, I'll call it luxury, to take care of me in that. And that's when I started to do the work. And thank Judy, thank my higher beings, thank anybody who was around me at that time to let me do that and give me the space and time to take that pause and start looking, where the messages would come back. See, you're a failure. Adrian, I'm a failure. I'm not giving her what she needs. That's my voice.
Right.
It's still there, but I can stop and I can know that, I know I did the best I could. I did the best I could at all times. I am strong to make it through that. And that's not easy to say. And here I am. And I do give her love. I do give her caretaking. I do everything that I can for her and I'm able to do for her. Is it still enough? But I don't feel like I'm a failure. I don't feel like I'm a failure anymore.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing is, things started to shift when you were able to get out of survival mode, all that temporary chaos. You were just trying to survive, doing your best to survive, which you did. You did. And then you got yourself to a place where you asked, who the hell am I? And you were willing to embark on that journey.
Yeah.
And in doing that, you've learned to fill yourself up so that you can be present for her.
It's just amazing. Even I actually, this might not sound like a big thing, but our relationship, she's got attachment disorders, my granddaughter. And so we're not, we're very close in a way, but we're not close. She doesn't hug me. She's not like, hey, let's hang out. There's none of that. And that's hard.
And on top of
But
that,
yeah. So I sent her a joke today. After she went to school, I was really sick. I'm not even going to tell you because it's embarrassing. But it was an embarrassing joke that I sent her. and I just and I sent it, and that's a big deal because we don't have fun. And one of the things that's starting to happen a little bit is we're starting to have fun together. And today I sent the silliest little text to her, and she did text me back. She's not supposed to text at school, but so I know I'm bad. But she says, "Good for you." It was about me having a bowel movement. So that's I feel so much better because I was sick yesterday. And it affected her because I couldn't bring her to a horse lesson. I couldn't pick her up at school. And so she's good for you.
That's a testament in itself that you're being able to infuse humor and laughter and fun. That's great. That's great. Yeah. So one of the first questions that I was thinking, in a situation where when I was to the point where it was hard to care anymore, is show me the truth of the situation. It's like, what is really going on here? And when I think about, family, friends, or whatever that I've had to take care of, loved ones that, the relationships were not good. They were not healthy. A lot of people that have powered over their entire lives are now in this vulnerable state and need a caregiver, and everybody's looking at you and it's like, what? Okay, how do I do this? Well, first, it's like, you got to get real. What's the truth of the situation here? What's happening? What are the resources? If I can't do this from a place of love, it's not going to be good for me. That's the reality of it. And that's in any experience. So the next question is like, why does it have to be me? Ask the questions. Don't be afraid to be looked at and called selfish or whatever, because being a caregiver is a commitment. And if you don't do it from a place of love, it's going to build resentment. Yeah. And as soon as it starts building resentment, it affects everything. Your emotional health, your mental health, your physical health. Okay. We talked about the challenging roles, the challenging things about caregiving. And when you're getting to a place of, okay, I can do this, I want to do this, what are your must-haves? Yes, you need to show up and care for this person, whoever it is, and take care of them. But what are your must-haves in this arrangement? Yeah. What are the boundaries needed to establish to ensure that you're getting what you need as well? Yeah. Everything is an energetic exchange, and we seek balance, but it's not always there. But what are your must-haves?
I know what I learned is I must have time to myself. For me, that's an example is, and I didn't have that until I stopped working full time. And it was after that when I must have, and if you don't do that, and you start resenting it, like, what, at my age, I should be just taking care of myself and having fun. That came to my head quite, more often than I want to admit. And you could go down that rabbit hole, but I wasn't taking care of myself. Yeah. And now it's like, I've got time to myself. That was so important. Even if it's to sit and watch the TV, I don't care. I need to have that. And it's okay for me to have that.
Downtime where you're off the clock. Downtime where you're off the clock. So, one of the biggest things, and the only thing I can relate this to is, the last 2.5 years of school when I was teaching. I loved the kids, but I didn't give a shit what was happening as far as all the political crap and, kissing ass so that you could get good, observations and all that kind of stuff. I didn't care. So how can I do this? How can I get through the next 2.5 years when I want nothing but love in my life? And it's like, I just asked. I asked God, I asked the universe, if this is what I'm meant to do for the next 2.5 years, help me do it with a happy heart. So being a caregiver when it's hard to care, think about these things. What's the truth of the situation? Does it have to be you? Have to be is implying that there is no choice. There's always a choice. You might not like what you have to choose from, but there's always a choice. You always have the power to say no. That's the reality. If you're concerned about what people will think, what people will say, that doesn't mean it's still not a choice. So, look at these things. Remind yourself that just because you're caring for another doesn't mean that you have to stop caring for yourself. And when it gets hard, make sure you have somebody you can talk to, that you can trust, and that you can open up to. Because if we let the hard sit there, we don't acknowledge it, we ignore it, we keep trying to pack it down, then it's going to creep up on us. It's going to get us. Because when we harbor that resentment, if we don't do something with it, we don't give it voice, then it's going to start to make us sick. Mentally, physically, emotionally. And then we're the ones that are going to need a freaking caregiver.
That's right. That's right.
So, do you have any parting words? Because you know what, Janice, there's an awful lot of grandparents out there that are raising their grandchildren for one reason or another. Do you have pearls of wisdom to drop before we?
Well, I did say no to the other two. I did know that I could only take care of one.
You knew your limit.
Yeah. And so saying no, and they both ended up in homes that were gifts. The middle child had really serious emotional issues. And the family he ended up with was a gift. They're angels. And the youngest one had serious medical issues. And he ended up with the perfect family. So, saying no, saying I could only take one was the hardest thing that I ever did and still beat myself up on. But I do know that it ended up being the best it can be for everybody.
Okay. I'm going to ask you this question and you don't have to answer it. But I'm going to say, if you know that it ended up in a manner that was best and perfect for them, why do you still beat yourself up?
Good question. I guess I need to pause and think about that.
There you go. There you go.
Thank you.
No problem. All right. So I believe that's it for today.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. That was a big one for me. So I appreciate your listening and support, and everyone out there who is in the same boat in different ways. We're here. We support you. We feel you. You are not alone. As I said, as I tell more stories and how I can relate to this. And I don't know if I should segue right into my message because we're getting late or not.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. We do this for free. We love it. We love sharing our stories and hoping that we get to touch somebody today with our story. And if you can give, we have expenses. Please donate us. We're a nonprofit 501c3. I will send you the official tax letter saying you can deduct it from your taxes. And also, if it's $25, I'm happy to make one of my t-shirts for you and send it to you, or $50 a sweatshirt. You need to just email me at peacefulempowermentworks@gmail.com and let me know, because I won't know unless you tell me. And thank you so much. Thank you for being there, and we love you. Thanks.
Yes.
Judy.
And if you want to make a donation, the website is peacefulempowermentworks.org.
Very good.
ASEFULEMPOWERMENT works.
Yeah. Donate button right in the top of the page and in the bottom.
Yep. So we want to thank you for choosing to be here now with us on the Peaceful Empowerment Works show. Please always remember,
you're not alone.
and don't ever forget, you are awesome. Thank you so much for being here with us, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Judy.
Thank you, Janice. Thanks, Cece.